So 2018 is drawing to a close. It's been a crazy year for gaming. I feel like every year it just gets bigger, it just gets better. I guess that's the trend of technology anyways, but 2018 felt specifically like a great year in gaming. And honestly, 2019 is looking pretty wild as well. There's already some predictions that we're going to see a ton of just crazy new stuff in 2019, and I believe it considering this past year. And, it's around this time at the end of the year that I begin to put my own thoughts together for a Game of the Year category, or maybe I'm just doing a top 5 or top 10. And surely it'll be something on this channel, or maybe even just something written on our website, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, I'll leave the link in description. You can go view our website. There is stuff that we post there that you may not see on the YouTube channel. And then, of course, follow our Twitter account as well. That way you can stay engaged with us and see stuff that we post both on the YouTube channel and the website. But anyway, as this year is ending, I'm thinking about all the games that have come out and what I want to put in my own category of Game of the Year or my top 5. And as I was looking at all the games this year, refreshing my memory, something very obvious became apparent to me. And that's something that I didn't really think a lot about throughout this year. It is something that I get confronted with every now and then, especially in the last 2 years, which has been yeesh. And that's exclusivity on the Xbox. Now, this topic itself is a contentious one. It's one that we often see discussed in forums or on social media, and a lot of it boils down to fans of other systems calling out people who defend Xbox, usually by just saying, LOL, Xbox has no games. And of course, while that started as mostly a meme, I feel like Microsoft has kind of memed that themselves into reality based on what they've done the past couple of years. Before we go any further, I do want to mention that I have always put Xbox first when it comes to getting consoles in a new generation. It started with the OG Green Monster. I got that first, and then I believe it was the GameCube and then PS2. And then next generation, it was Xbox 360 and then a Wii and then a PS3. And then in the current generation, it was Xbox One and then PS4 and then Nintendo Switch. And of course, no Wii U for obvious reasons. I've also spent a lot of that time defending Xbox because I deemed it as my main console. And we had some great years. I mean, the Halo and Gears of War sagas were great in the beginning, and I think now they're a little bit past their prime. And maybe Microsoft is trying to ride the coattails off it, but I think it's time to put those to rest. But they were thriving for so long off of Master Chief and whatever his face is, Marcus Phoenix. There we go. The Phoenix and Chief, man, they were like the guys for Microsoft, and it worked. I mean, both those franchises really sold Xboxes for sure. They sold me on it. They sold millions of people around the world that if you bought an Xbox, you were buying a powerful gaming machine. And I was sold. As I said, I've been in Xbox's corner for years now. But this year may have changed things. I had to really look at this past year and put things in perspective regarding what they released and consider maybe breaking from my tradition and go with Sony. But the point of this video is I wanted to take a look at the exclusives that did come out this year, just give some thoughts about them and refresh your memory on what came out. And this isn't necessarily a quote unquote roast video on how poor they did, because they did. That's just the fact. But I did want to refresh my memory and refresh yours as well as to what came out this year. Not an exclusive itself, but one of the big things that Microsoft launched this year on Xbox was the Game Pass program. For $15 a month, you get access to a selection of games. It's the full games, not just demos, and you can download them and play them at your leisure. And included in the Game Pass were Microsoft's 2 biggest releases this year. One of those is Sea of Thieves. This is arguably Microsoft's biggest game to come out this year, or what they wanted to be their biggest game. In case you forgot about it or want a refresher, it's a open-world pirate sim game developed by Rare, who previously has made games like Banjo-Kazooie, so very colorful, very cartoony. The game was touted as being this massive open world that you can get a crew of your friends together, sail the seas, attack other ships, attack other players, go on treasure hunts, typical pirate stuff. Coming out of E3, there was a ton of hype surrounding this game. People were really looking forward to it, and a lot of journalists and people were saying that this was going to be a turnaround for Microsoft, that they were going to have something come out that was going to draw in a huge player base and keep them there. I did get into the beta of Sea of Thieves before its release, and one of the things I noticed right away was how empty it was, or at least seemingly empty it was. I was playing with a friend, and we were sailing from island to island, and there was just nothing around. There was just no enemies. We weren't running into other players, which we would later on, but for 5 or 6 hours straight, we were just sailing around in an empty world, and it was really discouraging. And that was due in part to, I think, of how the beta was built at that time. Once the game came out, however, it didn't improve that much. I was still sailing around a lot and finding a lot of emptiness, and I was playing with other people. I don't think I ever played Sea of Thieves for an extended period of time alone. God forbid. What a nightmare that would be. But playing with a group of people was still it just wasn't satisfying. The quests were often just easy fetch quests and grew pretty stale. The enemies, when they were actually in the game and you could find them, were skeletons. That's it. Just skeletons. And when I speak about Sea of Thieves, I do my best to contain being harsh about it because it did do some things well, and I think, but I was just so disappointed with how this game turned out that my first instinct when talking about it is to be kind of harsh, because it just felt like such a bungling of what could have been a really cool and interesting game. So this huge open world that should have been filled with lots of quests and interesting characters and just things to do in general just fell flat. And players realized this, as did critics, and this was something that was being talked about a lot in the game's first couple weeks of release. And just after a few weeks, many players drifted off, sailed away onto another game. The game has seen some updates since its release. A few DLC packs, I believe, have come out, a few content updates. And I think most of those have been free. Could be wrong, but at least I hope they're free. But, there is still a small player base that is playing the game and is dedicated, and I believe that the developers are dedicated to it as well. So who knows? I mean, it could be something that turns around a year from now, maybe summer of 2019. There's enough content in the game to make it worthwhile, where they make some major changes to the general UI overhaul, like just do a whole overhaul of everything. Maybe that'll happen and it'll make Sea of Thieves viable. I don't know. It would be cool. I'd like to play this game again and have it be an enjoyable experience. And another game to come out on the Game Pass as well that was heavily shown at E3 is State of Decay 2. This is a sequel to the surprise hit zombie game from 2013, and it had a lot to live up to. The first game got a lot of praise for its unique take on the zombie genre, and that was well deserved. I think State of Decay was a nice break from the tradition of zombie games at the time. It had a ton of interesting gameplay mechanics, like being able to oversee a base of survivors and switch in between those survivors. And State of Decay 2 was going to expand on all these things and add a deeper level to them. So there was a pretty high bar set for this game, and unfortunately, they just couldn't match or meet that bar. The game was pretty buggy at launch, and I think the first game had problems with that, but I mean, come on, you got to prepare better for this. You got to release a game that isn't going to just shatter when it comes out. And not only was it buggy, but it was actually kind of boring. So when you have less than exciting gameplay mixed with buggy and clunky controls, you're not going to have a good outcome. It received mostly lukewarm to pretty harsh reviews from some players. And to be honest, I don't know anyone who's playing State of Decay 2 still. At this point, I think it is really time for zombie games to die unless someone is going to do something completely beyond the spectrum. But the genre itself has just kind of been cornered, and it needs a big, refreshing take, or it needs to just go away for a while. And I believe State of Decay 2 is kind of the ultimate catalyst for that. And then there's Forza Horizon 4, which is not on the Game Pass, but is one of the major exclusive games this year for Xbox. Like Halo and the Gears of War series, Forza is kind of a hallmark of the Microsoft Xbox E3 show floor. It's kind of like a brand new bride to them. They like to show it around a lot. Forza at its core is a series that really caters to a pretty specific audience. And car sim racing games are sort of a dying breed these days. We don't really see them that often. When we do get a big showing of a racing game, it's often just to show how good a console is at displaying powerful graphics. The Forza series, though, does exude quality, I believe, and there is a depth of gameplay that can be appreciated. I have never played a Forza game, so I'll leave it to Forza fans to write in the comments what they think of the newest iteration, what they think of the series as a whole, and what they think about Microsoft's role in it. And that is really it. I mean, we did get a smattering of indie titles, games like Pit People, Deep Rock Galactic, Ashen, which actually isn't out yet, in PUBG, but that is coming to PS4 soon. So you have Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, and Forza Horizon 4. Now, when you compare those exclusives to what Sony did this year and what Nintendo did this year, I mean, what more can you say? Sony with Spider-Man and God of War, both contenders for Game of the Year themselves, and Nintendo with games like Octopath Traveler, Super Mario Party, and of course, Smash Ultimate. When Microsoft has a year like this compared to a year that Sony and Nintendo had, it's not good. It's just not. It's not good enough. I mean, it's no wonder that so many Xbox users have grown bitter and detached from Microsoft. And then you add the cancellation of Scalebound, which is a whole big issue, which maybe we should do our own video on, and the mystery of when Crackdown 3 is coming out. It's all just fuel to the fire. At this point, I'm not entirely sure what it's going to take for Microsoft to right this ship. I just don't know. I think E3 2019 is going to be a pretty telling year for them. I think the Game Pass is a great idea. I think it gives a lot back to the players. And I think that's what Microsoft really needs to focus on, is just making sure their customer base is happy. Really, really listen to them. Sure, there's a lot of trolls out there, but there's a lot of people who only have an Xbox. And while multi-platform games are where it's at, that's the bread and butter, there's tons of good shit. I think it's time to invest in a new franchise, and something new. I'm interested to hear in what you all think about this. If you're an Xbox user that is mad, let me know in the comments. If you're a PS4 user and you just want to say something mean about Xbox users, maybe not. But anyway, thanks for tuning into this video. I know it's kind of a long one, but it's where our head's at these days. Thanks again for checking it out, and we'll see you in the next video.